just attained B Corp accreditation, congratulations. Now, DRPG's been around for 40 years and you've now got over 400 people working globally for the DRPG brand. You must feel immensely proud.
Oh yeah, I mean, proud of the team for gaining B Corp. It's not down to me, it's down to everybody involved, because it involves every aspect of the business. It is a weight on the shoulders sometimes, and particularly the last few years with the whole pandemic. There's a lot of mouths to feed. It's not just the 400, it's the 400 families, it's the mortgages, it's the supply chain, it's everything that sits around it. But we just get on with it. If you thought about it every day, you'd just go mad, probably.
Yeah, of course. And is there a time earlier on before DRPG when you sort of went, I've helped someone out and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
The purpose of business is to make everybody more successful. It doesn't matter whether you're a client, a team member, or a supplier or community. And that's been a philosophy of mine right from the beginning, going back even before the company started. So that, in my psyche, that's how businesses should be. Yeah. Integrated into the community, part of the community, making everybody more successful, and giving back into the community. That's really, really important.
So what goes on in here?
So this is my greenhouse. It really supports my passion for growing things, and that's really what I wanted to do when I left school. I wanted to be a horticulturalist and grow vegetables and plants, and so things like grapefruits.
And so how long does it take for a grapefruit to grow?
So that bush has been in for probably 3 years. And this is the first year it's actually giving fruit.
Wow. That's a long time it takes to get a bit of crop.
It does, and that was one of the reasons I decided not to go and grow things, because I can be a bit impatient. But there is a big analogy between growing things and growing a business, and growing a sustainable business. Anybody can grow a business to make money quickly, but that's not sustainable. You're never going to support those 400 people, never going to grow a reputation and grow a brand and grow sustainability from people, planet, profit to support those three. So you have to have patience, you have to nurture it, just as you would a tree or a bush. The business is exactly the same.
And I suppose 17 years ago, when you started off in that sustainability journey, and you went to that show or that project and you saw these sustainability experts like Sam from Centiro having those conversations that no one else was having, and you absorbed that information, you took it back to your team, was there sort of pushback from the team? How did you get across the line this idea that, I'm going to run this business in a sustainable way now?
What inspired me seeing Sam on stage was, one, we were also already doing an awful lot of what she was talking about, but we didn't realise it. It was just the natural thing to do. But then there was other stuff that inspired me of actually we could do a lot more and also be recognised for doing it as well through the accreditations like B Corp and the ISOs and everything else. So going back to the team and saying, hey, you never guess what I've just seen. We're going to put a process in place, a system. We don't record anything we do. We maybe are not as great as we should be in certain areas. And there was pushback in those early days because it was like, well, how commercially are we going to benefit from that? Yeah. And that's been the link, and I think where the light bulb moment was the 3 Ps of people, planet, profit, seeing them in equal measures. So everybody sort of shies away from talking about profit. But if you don't make profit, you can't support people and you can't support the planet. So that has to be as equally as strong as the other two. So you have to make a sustainable process, a sustainable world, a sustainable business that supports all 3 of those. And that creates that sustainable future. But a bit like growing grapefruits, it takes a long time. So this is a vegetable plot. This is more my wife's domain rather than myself these days. So beans have just come down, they've finished. Got leeks over there, cabbages, cauliflowers, Swedes, and then the fruit patch over in the corner there. So it's 365 days of the year, so we can keep harvesting.
So 17 years on from starting on your sustainability journey, how has perceptions changed?
Massively. I think it was a bit sceptical at first of why are we doing this? Is it just about PR? Or all those sorts of things have come out. But now, clearly, sustainability is a hot topic across the globe. But I think what we have to be careful of is we don't react to the emotions of it and it's all linked to the data and the analytics and the facts. We have to act on the facts, not the emotions. And that's where the accreditations really come to the fore, because they're asking for data constantly and evidence and proof. Because if we don't, we end up maybe making the wrong decision, but also possibly then getting into that greenwashing, and it does become about PR and trying to play on people's emotions rather than trying to do the right thing. So we shouldn't be afraid of getting it wrong. Every day is a learning day with sustainability. We're always finding new ideas, new ways of doing things, new techniques. So we should never be afraid that we're never going to get everything right, because we won't.
Shall we go have a cuppa?
Go on then. Yeah.
Now I'm going to do some myth busting with you, okay?
Okay.
So I know a lot of what you do in events is about making them sustainable, and you focus a lot of the time on the supply chain as well. So I'm just going to show you some stuff, and you're going to let me know what you think about them.
Okay.
So here we got tomatoes grown in the UK and tomatoes grown in Spain.
So this is very much around, again, what I talked about, following your emotions. And emotionally, you would say, we need to source locally. I'm just going to go down the road and get that, or they're English tomatoes rather than Spanish tomatoes. But dig into that. And when we looked at the packaging, yes, they're grown in the UK or they're grown in England. A bit more research sitting behind that, they're grown in big greenhouses that are oil-fired. So the emissions from growing these tomatoes, not the actual tomatoes themselves, but the actual process of doing it, is higher than shipping in from Spain, where they're grown out in the open, in the ground, and then either flown in or by ship. So we have to be really careful about jumping to a conclusion just because it's local, it's going to have a lower emission, a lower carbon. Same goes for things like local wine. So we buy English wine, brilliant, very good, and we look at then where has everything come from, and the bottle comes from China. So you get caught out.
Interesting. Moving on, we've got veggie sausages, normal sausages.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is around personal choice, but also, again, we have to be careful with a big push on plant food. However, again, it can be some plant-based food has a higher carbon than some meat-based. Research, go into it, look at it, and we have to have that balanced view. There's no real right or wrong way of doing this, but a balanced approach is really important. What I would say to anybody in events is look at the supply chain and don't just stop at where you're getting it from, where are they getting it from, and where are they getting it from? And the secret is to keep the supply chain as short as possible. And it's not necessarily just about the tomatoes or the meat. It's how long has that been stored and how has it been stored? Has it been frozen? Some foods can be frozen for 5 years. How much energy has that taken? What has powered those freezers? It's looking into that sort of detail that sits behind it. It's not as straightforward as everybody thinks. So, as I say, don't look at the emotion, look at the facts.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So we've got a mug.
Yeah.
Or these lovely reusable, recyclable paper cups.
I mean, the problem, I would say mug, always. Yeah. But of course, it's never going to be zero emissions because you've got a dishwasher, you've got waste from that dishwasher, etc. But bit of a myth with these. Yes, they're recyclable or reusable. I'm not sure how many would want to reuse them. But the UK is not really very geared up for biocompostable material. So that would probably end up in landfill. In fact, we looked at the packaging earlier, it did say not to go into recycle bins. So that's a landfill product there. But people may think, because it feels cardboard, maybe is cardboard or an element of it is, that that's great. But I'd always go for just wash it up.
Yeah, and I'm just going to put my cup down for this one. Last thing, the good old tote bag.
Yeah.
Right, compared to the old paper bag. These went out of fashion about 20 years ago.
And they're massively back in now.
Yeah, right. It was all about not using paper.
Yeah.
What do you think about the tote bag?
Yeah. If you're going, well, my first question was why you want to do it. Why are you giving stuff away? Because we've probably got loads of tote bags. We've probably got loads of reusable drinks bottles. There's only so many we can use. So it's also, oh, this is great. It's recyclable, reusable. But how many are we actually going to reuse? The better decision is not to do it at all and find another way of doing giveaways, a digital option, maybe supporting a local enterprise, social enterprise, so purchasing gifts from there, which actually makes it much more sustainable. Also, more of an experience as well for the delegates. Between the two, yes, paper, great, it's recyclable, it's biodegradable as well. But my first question is, why do you want to do it?
Yeah.
What's the point?
With all these things then I suppose there's no right answer.
No.
And you've got to keep an eye on the supply chain. You've got to keep an eye on where you're getting your resources from.
Yeah.
And actually what is the point behind certain decisions you're making.
Absolutely. Why are you doing it? But also you look at those 3 Ps that we spoke about earlier, people, planet, profit, and balance the 3 equally, and then that will help you make the right decision going forward.
So let's talk about B Corp again. Out of all the accreditations that you've got over the years, why is B Corp the cream of the crop? Why should we be talking about it?
I think it's global. It covers many different industries, not just our industry. Yeah. So you get recognised by clients. And I think it is that recognition piece for the team of how hard they've worked to gain B Corp. But it also, with all the accreditations, we get audited, we get checked on. And so it puts some discipline into an organisation that we know we've got to reach that standard or get better than that standard. So it's that continuous improvement piece that maybe wouldn't have so much if you didn't have that accreditation piece.
Hold you accountable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I just want to touch on really quickly about sort of inspirations of yours over the years, because it's quite a unique company for myself to work for, but also to sort of watch from an outside point of view. Who do you take inspiration from?
I've always been fascinated by going back 100 years or so to Victorian times, like the Bourneville Trust, Cadbury's, Brinton's, where they created a community within their organisation to look after people, to give them, good homes, recreational, swimming pools, entertainment, food, and you think, well, that's surely the role of an organisation. It's not just, again, to make that money and to be profitable and give stuff back to shareholders. It's also to be part of the community. Going
forward then into the future, what does that hold for you?
I think for us as a B Corp holder, there is a community across the globe now, which we're part of, but also in the events community and the comms community. I think we have a responsibility to share and collaborate. It's great that we've been ahead of the curve quite a lot at the time, but we can still keep learning. But where can we share our knowledge? We know there are organisations who haven't even got going yet. So I think you've got to put the competitive nature apart to one side and help other organisations, whether they be competitors, whether they be suppliers or whether they be clients. And that's part of that, making everybody more successful. So I think us, from our point of view, keep learning, because we don't know everything. Absolutely we don't. And still finding new ways and innovating with sustainability. But where can we then pass that knowledge on?
Yeah. So one final takeaway then. What's the message? What do you want people to listen to?
I think it's keep it simple. It's very easy to overcomplicate. It's very easy not to use common sense and to look too deep into this. It is incredibly simple, and that's a mantra for pretty much everything I do, whether it's the structure of the business, whether it's the way we operate our projects, whether it is around sustainability. Look for the easiest route and keep it simple, and then it will fall into place.
Well, Dale, thank you so much for chatting today.
Pleasure.
I look forward to seeing what happens next. Where can we go after B Corp?
Well, yeah, who knows?